All around the world, stories of UFOs appearing in the middle of the night, strange signals from outer space, and mysterious ghosts continue to leave people feeling unsettled. Even though science has advanced tremendously, these phenomena still have no clear explanation. Join us as we explore the unanswered mysteries of extraterrestrials and the ghosts that appear around us in today's video. The Aliens of Varginha. In early January of 1996, the small town of Varginha lay peacefully nestled among the rolling hills of Minas Gerais in southeastern Brazil. Life here remained as simple as it had always been, a reflection of rural South America, where most residents earned their living from sprawling coffee farms that blanketed the slopes. Coffee wasn't just a source of income for each family, it was a way of life, something that gave the region its distinct character. Compared to the bustling cities of São Paulo or Rio de Janeiro, Varginha was still little more than a quiet town, far removed from modern urban centers. In this place, people still called each other by name, and neighbors routinely lent a hand during harvest season or local festivals. As 1996 began, there was a sense of joy and anticipation in the air. Residents had just finished celebrating the new year, coming together as a community to wish for better days ahead. Laughter, small gatherings, and local festivities filled the streets, reinforcing a deep sense of connection among the townspeople. No one imagined that anything unusual was about to happen. But in just a single night, all that peace would be shattered by a series of strange events no one could have predicted. In the early hours of January 20, 1996, as the entire town of Varginha slept, something strange happened on a farm on the outskirts. The farm belonged to Eurico Rodriguez and his wife, Aurelina Augusta. They were used to waking up whenever they heard odd noises at night, but this time, the commotion in the livestock pen left both of them more uneasy than usual. The frantic cries of the cows and sheep sounded different, disturbed in a way they had never heard before. Eurico and Aurelina peered out through the window, trying to spot the cause of the chaos. In that moment, both were left speechless by what they saw. What they saw hanging in the pitch-black sky above their property was a bizarre flying object. It looked like a massive submarine, its surface a cold, metallic gray, and it gave off no light at all. Below, the livestock were clearly affected, the cows and sheep ran in all directions, desperate to find shelter from something completely unfamiliar. The air on the farm was thick with unease, laced with a fear that neither Eurico nor Aurelina could explain. The strange object hovered overhead for about 5 minutes before suddenly vanishing as mysteriously as it had appeared. When it was over, Eurico and Aurelina simply stared at each other in worry. They considered reporting what they'd seen to the local authorities, but in the end, they decided to keep it secret, afraid of being ridiculed or accused of making it up. No one realized that within a few hours, what they had witnessed would become the center of one of the biggest mysteries their small town had ever experienced. That very afternoon, another strange incident took place on the other side of town. Two sisters, Valkyria and Liliane Silva, along with their close friend, Katia Xavier, were walking down a familiar road on their way home. The air was cool and quiet, broken only by the rustle of dry leaves beneath their feet. The three girls chatted as they walked, with no idea they were about to become witnesses to one of the most extraordinary events of their lives. As the group approached a wall tucked away in the woods, all three suddenly froze. Just 7 meters ahead of them, a strange creature crouched close to the ground. At first, the girls thought it was a wounded animal, but they were wrong. The creature was unnaturally thin and small, with dark, shiny skin that looked as if it were coated in oil. Its head was abnormally large, and its eyes glowed bright red, standing out sharply on its distorted face. In a split second, the creature turned its head, its red eyes locking onto the girls and studying their every move. None of them dared to stay even a second longer. The three screamed and ran through the trees, never once looking back, terrified the creature might chase after them. When they got home, the Silva sisters collapsed at the doorway, sobbing with fear. Their mother was shocked to find her daughters in such a state of panic. Despite her efforts to comfort them, she could not ease their terror. The incident. With all its raw emotion and the lingering fear still etched on the faces of the three girls, quickly spread as gossip throughout the small town. It marked the beginning of a controversy and an obsession that would last for years in Virginia. Within days, newspapers large and small ran headlines about the strange encounter, sparking even greater curiosity and debate. Bizarre Events and Brazil's most popular television show at the time, Fantástico, devoted special coverage to the discovery of extraterrestrial beings in Virginia. The arrival of national media attention turned the story of three teenage girls into a nationwide sensation. A sense of suspense and curiosity gripped the entire town. Conversations in coffee shops, on buses, and at the market all circled around the same question: did aliens really appear in Virginia? People began to reconsider other strange events that had happened in the area, incidents they had previously dismissed as nonsense. Many recalled seeing odd objects in the sky or hearing strange noises late at night, but until now, they had been too embarrassed to tell anyone. Very quickly, the number of self-identified witnesses multiplied. According to some sources, more than 200 people in Virginia and neighboring areas came forward, claiming to have seen the strange creature or an unidentified flying object near the town around that time. Remarkably, many of the witness accounts shared striking similarities. They described a creature with brown skin, a thin and unusual build, an oversized head, and glowing red eyes. Some even mentioned that the creature had 3 spikes or small lumps protruding from its head, just as Claudia Xavier originally described. As rumors of the creature spread through Virginia, people began to question the role of the authorities. The town was not far from the Tres Carracos military base, one of the most important bases in the region. The physical proximity between the incident and the base fueled speculation, and for years, suspicions would linger. Some sources claiming ties to military or defense personnel shared stories that only increased public anxiety. Small Brazilian town of Varginha in the 1990s, people gathered in a local coffee shop and open-air market, discussing anxiously, suspenseful atmosphere, newspapers with alien headlines spread across tables, old buses passing by, background shows rolling green hills, rustic colonial architecture, townspeople gesturing animatedly, mixed expressions of curiosity and fear, warm afternoon light, cinematic photorealistic style. Thanks to the tireless efforts of Ubrajara and his team, a series of new details gradually came to light, most notably, the story that unfolded on February 1, 1996. That month, the Silva family received an unexpected visit. Returning home, the mother, Luisa Silva, found 4 strange men in sharp black suits talking to her daughters. The men introduced themselves as officials there to ask about the recent incident. They quickly made an unbelievable offer. They proposed a large sum of money in exchange for the girls' complete denial of having ever seen anything strange in the woods that day. To the family's shock, the girls refused without hesitation, insisting that what they saw was real and could not be denied. The mysterious arrival of the 4 men in black only stoked further public suspicion. For many in Virginia, this was not just an attempt at bribery, but evoked the familiar image of the men in black. People began to wonder, was the entire Virginia affair being covered up by the government, or perhaps by some secret organization with powers beyond the ordinary person's imagination? While many believed the events in Virginia were clear evidence of extraterrestrial visitation, more mundane theories always existed. The most common explanation was that the 3 girls had simply run into a homeless man wandering the woods near Jardim Mandir. According to this theory, the man may have suffered from congenital deformities that made his appearance frightening. His odd looks, combined with the dim light and the girls' panic, convinced them they'd encountered something not of this world. Numerous news sites and forums even gave this homeless figure nicknames like Little Louise, with some even publishing supposed photos of him taken in later years. These details kept the controversy alive, with some fiercely defending the witnesses' experiences, while others dismissed them as simple mistakes or the product of overactive imaginations. The speculation didn't end there. Some members of the public believed the whole affair was nothing more than a ploy to draw attention and boost tourism in the small town. Indeed, since 1996, Varginha had suddenly become a UFO hotspot. Every year, the town of Varginha welcomed thousands of curious tourists, UFO researchers, and journalists, all eager to uncover the truth behind the mystery. The pinnacle came in 2004, when Varginha hosted the International UFO Conference, attracting a remarkable number of specialists in the field. More than 20 years have passed since the day Varginha became the center of the world's attention with its story of a strange creature. The once quiet little town nestled among the coffee hills now wears a completely new face. The fame brought by the 1996 event has completely transformed the lives of its people. Varginha is no longer just a distant name on the map, it has become a destination for curious tourists, UFO researchers, and international reporters alike, all hoping to see for themselves the place now called the Roswell of Brazil. The mystery of Lake Baikal. Nestled in southern Siberia, Lake Baikal is a natural wonder that leaves a lasting impression on anyone who hears its name. It isn't just the world's largest freshwater lake by volume, it's also the deepest, with some spots plunging as far as 1,600 meters beneath the surface. Often referred to as the Pearl of Siberia, Baikal has, for centuries, guarded a trove of mysteries that remain unsolved beneath its icy waters. For hundreds of years, stories about Baikal have been woven into local folklore and passed down through generations. People living along its shores speak of giant monsters lurking in the lake, depths hiding sunken trains loaded with treasures yet to be discovered, and unidentified flying objects that appear and vanish into the Siberian mist. But among all these stories, the one that haunts people most is the tale of the Baikal Lake humanoids. According to legend, these are human-like beings who live on the lake bed, possessing powers and technologies far beyond anything known to mankind. Their mysterious appearances are said to have once so terrified the Soviet military that they sparked one of the most remarkable encounters in modern history. In the summer of 1982, Lake Baikal became the scene of one of the most puzzling events in modern Russian history. At that time, a team of Soviet Navy divers was sent to the lake for training in the extreme cold and depth. At first, everything went according to plan. But within minutes, the entire team found themselves caught up in an encounter beyond anything they could have imagined. While carrying out their mission underwater, the divers suddenly spotted three bizarre creatures swimming toward them. From the very first moment, everyone was stunned by the extraordinary appearance of these beings. The three figures were enormous, estimated to be nearly 3 meters tall. With bodies covered in silvery suits that glistened like mirrors. Stranger still, they carried no breathing apparatus, except for transparent helmets. Slowly and calmly, the three mysterious beings drifted away into the darkness of the lake, leaving the divers with nothing but a torrent of unanswered questions. As soon as they resurfaced, the team reported what they had seen to their superiors. Instead of pulling back, a special order was given. 7 people, including an experienced instructor, would return with nets, tasked with capturing at least one of these creatures for further study. Silently, they descended into the depths once again, their flashlights probing the frigid lake bed. Suddenly, the silver shapes appeared in the blue darkness. This time, tension gripped everyone. As one instructor moved closer, ready to cast the net, one of the lake humanoids unexpectedly drew a small device from its side and aimed it at the divers. In an instant, the water around the group turned into a violent vortex. The powerful current shot them to the surface, leaving all of them in critical danger from decompression sickness. Despite efforts to save them, 3 of the 7 did not survive. The 4 who lived carried with them harrowing memories and an incredible story about the Baikal Lake humanoids. What's especially striking is that after this dramatic event in 1982, there is almost no official documentation of any response from Soviet authorities. No one knows whether they continued their investigation in secret, or whether underwater training in Baikal was ever suspended. Yet, the story of the Baikal Lake humanoids is just one among countless strange phenomena recorded in this region over the decades. Those who have worked or studied at Baikal have repeatedly reported incidents that modern science still cannot explain. Chief among them are the numerous accounts involving scientific submarines. There have been times when research teams reported picking up strange signals or seeing mysterious lights coming from deep within the lake, at depths where no ordinary equipment can function. Occasionally, monitoring devices recorded unidentified movements, or communication systems between submersibles suffered inexplicable interference. Each event added another piece to the still unfinished puzzle of Baikal's mysteries. It seems that the deeper one ventures into the lake, the more one realizes how much of a stranger humankind is in a vast and complex world beyond our imagination. Baikal not only guards secrets of nature and unique forms of life but also conceals phenomena that defy all human understanding. Alongside legends of lake monsters and bizarre creatures from the depths, Lake Baikal is also famous for its stories of unidentified flying objects. These aren't just tales born of imagination or rumor, they've been documented in the accounts of credible witnesses, from experienced divers to local residents living near the lake. On certain summer nights, when Baikal's surface lies as still as glass, people have witnessed mysterious beams of light moving silently across the sky, only to plunge straight into the lake below. Renowned diving instructor Alexei Chulin once recounted an unforgettable experience. While rowing with his students, he spotted a glowing red orb flashing in the distance. It hovered just above the water, then suddenly dove down, casting a crimson light across the rippling lake, before shooting back up into the night sky and vanishing without a trace. The sight left Chulin and everyone present deeply shaken. This was not an isolated incident. Many have witnessed such strange events over the years. Sergei Kit, a local resident, along with his young son, once saw two orange orbs that seemed to rise and fall, as if playing above the lake's surface. After a few minutes of bizarre movement, both orbs simultaneously plunged straight into Baikal and disappeared. These inexplicable events at Lake Baikal have inspired many theories about their true origins. One popular idea is that these unidentified flying objects may not have come from distant space at all, but from the depths of Baikal itself. According to this theory, there could be mysterious civilizations hidden beneath the lake, entire species that have lived there for centuries before humans ever set eyes on these waters. Some researchers have even suggested that if extraterrestrial visitors truly exist, they might have chosen Baikal as the perfect place to hide. The water not only conceals their presence but could serve as a vital energy source for their advanced technology. However, under the tight information control of the Soviet era, it remains extremely difficult to verify the truth behind these bizarre tales. Many skeptics believe the Baikal humanoid incident was simply the tragic result of decompression sickness among divers, a story later embellished over time to explain their mysterious and sudden deaths. And yet, despite these rational explanations, Lake Baikal continues to produce new witnesses and fresh stories of lake humanoids and strange flying objects. All of this ensures that the shroud of mystery around Baikal remains very much alive, making it not only a destination for scientists and explorers but also an endless source of fascination for anyone captivated by the world's unanswered mysteries. The mystery of the Grinning Man. As children, every one of us has experienced that peculiar mixture of curiosity and anxiety about the world around us. We could spend hours playing beneath the warm daytime sun, but when night fell, everything changed. The spaces around our homes grew quieter, shadows deepened, and our young minds began to imagine mysteries no one could explain. In childhood, we all heard stories about strange creatures that grown-ups called the bogeymen. Every town and village had its own local legends, stories of odd things that happened once darkness descended, tales that sometimes lingered in our minds long into adulthood. Some children grew up afraid to walk past the abandoned house at the end of the street, a place no one dared approach at night. Others recalled glimpsing a silent figure hiding among the trees at the edge of the forest, or a shapeless creature that appeared only on stormy nights across empty fields. Sometimes, just a single strange sound in the stillness of night was enough to make us shiver, every step home charged with a quiet, unspoken fear. These are memories that most people share from childhood, even if, as we grow older, we learn that monsters aren't supposed to be real. But for decades, despite the progress of science and humanity's ever-expanding understanding of the universe, stories of strange beings continue to surface, stories that resist easy explanation. In North America, countless people have claimed to see Bigfoot roaming deep within ancient forests. In wild, remote regions, legends of the Wendigo are still passed from one generation to the next. Yet among all these chilling tales, there is one figure whose very name is enough to send a shiver down your spine, the Grinning Man. He is a being who does not simply appear and vanish like a shadow, but who is said to quietly step into people's private worlds. More than a few witnesses have claimed to see him standing silently in the dark corner of a room, or even watching them as they slept. It is this sudden, inexplicable presence that makes the Grinning Man one of the most unsettling mysteries humanity has ever faced. Unlike monsters from fairy tales, the Grinning Man possesses an appearance that is strangely familiar, and yet entirely alien. Those who have seen him. Witnesses agree that the Grinning Man is much taller than an ordinary person, estimated at nearly 7 feet. But his build isn't the frail, gaunt frame you might expect from such eerie tales. Instead, he has broad shoulders, muscular arms, and an overall sense of intimidating strength. Standing before him, many people say they've never felt smaller in their lives. Yet what leaves the deepest, most chilling impression is his face. His eyes are small, round, and disturbingly set unusually far apart on a hairless head. Between those eyes is a low, almost emotionless nose. People often say there's no sign of life in his gaze, nothing human, nothing warm, only a cold, empty stare. He is always dressed in a tight-fitting bodysuit that shines as if it were made from metallic foil, the glossy material accentuating every muscle and curve, adding to the overwhelming sense of unreality he exudes. Some witnesses even claim that when streetlights or passing car lamps catch his suit, he looks like something not of this world, a figure that defies normal explanation. But it is his smile that truly haunts people. It isn't the friendly grin of someone who's just heard good news. The Grinning Man's mouth stretches unnaturally wide across his face, dominating it completely. And yet, in those cold, unblinking eyes, there is no joy, no emotion at all. Only his mouth smiles, never his eyes. Many describe the grin as a silent threat, a warning that something terrible is about to happen. Faced with him, people feel frozen, powerless before a presence that seems simply, not human. The story begins on an autumn evening in 1966. Two boys, Martin Munov and James Yankitis, were walking home after watching a movie. That night, the city of Elizabeth, New Jersey, lay under its usual heavy darkness. To shorten their trip, the boys decided to take a shortcut through the underpass beneath the New Jersey Turnpike, a place that felt colder and lonelier at night. Above them, cars roared past in an endless stream, but below, only the dim orange glow of old street lamps lit their path, leaving the corners around them swallowed in shadow. The air felt heavy, filled with the rumble of passing traffic and an uneasy silence. Earlier that evening, they had heard unsettling news. A woman had been chased through town by a stranger wearing a strange green suit. Even though they tried to shrug it off, the fear seemed to follow them with every step through that deserted underpass. As they neared the far end, James suddenly noticed something, a man standing among the bushes behind an iron fence. He nudged Martin and whispered, "Who is that?" Martin turned to look, and both boys instantly realized the figure before them was unlike anyone they had ever seen. He was enormous, powerfully built, dressed in a shiny green suit that glimmered under the streetlight. What struck them most was that he wasn't watching them. Instead, he stood perfectly still, staring intently at a house about 200 yards away, as if completely transfixed. At first, it seemed the figure hadn't noticed them. But after a few tense moments, he slowly turned his face toward the boys. A chill ran down their spines. His face was so unnatural they could barely describe it, dominated by that impossibly wide, eerie grin. Without thinking, Martin and James turned and ran, sprinting all the way home. Even after reaching safety, the terror didn't fade, the image of that strange being stayed with them, haunting their thoughts whenever they closed their eyes. A few days later, their story reached John Keel, a well-known writer and UFO researcher. Keel interviewed both boys separately, and remarkably, Martin and James described the figure in exactly the same way, same time, same place, same terrifying appearance. What made the incident even stranger was that on the very night of their sighting, a UFO had been reported in the same area. This connection turned the Grinning Man from a whispered rumor into one of the great mysteries of that era. The story didn't end there. In the last months of 1966, stranger and more unsettling stories emerged from Point Pleasant, West Virginia. The Lilly family began to experience unexplained events inside their quiet home. Household objects would sometimes fall without warning, a glass slipping off a table, books scattered across the floor. Doors slammed shut in the middle of the night, even when there was no wind outside. And late at night, strange noises echoed from empty rooms, startling everyone in the family. Even more unsettling, mysterious lights would often appear in the sky above their house, as if something unearthly was silently watching them from above. The Lillys couldn't explain any of it, but each night, the sense that a stranger was lurking nearby grew stronger. The climax came on a bitterly cold December night. Linda Lilly, the youngest daughter, awoke at 1:45 a.m. to an odd sound in her room. Groggy and half asleep, she opened her eyes. And immediately sensed something was terribly wrong. At the foot of her bed stood a tall man, staring directly at her. His face was split by a huge, menacing grin, a smile so terrifying it sent a wave of cold fear through her entire body. Panic surged, and Linda dove under her blanket, heart pounding so loudly she could barely breathe. Praying that if she couldn't see him, he would vanish, Linda hid under her blanket. What felt like an eternity passed before she finally dared to peek out. The man was gone. Only silence remained, as if nothing had ever happened. Though she was never physically harmed, the nightmare left a deep scar on Linda's soul. For weeks afterward, she refused to sleep in her own room, the terror returning each time night fell. Even more strangely, after Linda's encounter with the Grinning Man, all the unexplained disturbances in the Lilly home abruptly ceased. The house grew quiet again, but the memory of that night and of the grinning stranger haunted Linda for the rest of her life. The deeper you go into stories of the Grinning Man, the more unsettling questions arise. What exactly is this being? When people compare the Grinning Man to other famous supernatural figures, they notice striking similarities, especially to the so-called Men in Black. These mysterious men, always in black suits, appear after UFO sightings. Witnesses describe them as cold, expressionless, and strangely mechanical in their movements, with lifeless faces and those same chilling, unnatural smiles that inspire instinctive fear. Some describe them as if they aren't fully human at all, but rather something else wearing a human disguise. A few even claim their eyes are pitch black, and that their presence feels utterly wrong, beyond human understanding. Even more unsettling, people who say they've been abducted by UFOs often describe meeting a being whose appearance and mannerisms match those of the Grinning Man. In many of these accounts, a single name surfaces again and again, Indrid Cold. The first to speak of him was Woodrow Derenberger, who claimed that, one night on a lonely highway in West Virginia, a UFO landed on the road ahead of him. From it stepped a tall figure in a shiny suit, who introduced himself telepathically as Indrid Cold. Derenberger's encounter drew widespread attention, but he insisted that it wasn't a single meeting. Cold visited him many times afterward. Derenberger even claimed that Indrid Cold wasn't alone. According to him, Cold traveled with two other beings named Demo Hassan and Carl Ardo. And it wasn't only Derenberger who saw them, his wife, too, claimed she saw these strange visitors, and felt in her bones that they meant no good for humanity. In 1978, across the ocean in Italy, a man named Pier Fortunato Zanfretta also reported meeting a being who introduced himself as Indrid Cold, right before Zanfretta said he was abducted onto a spaceship. The story drew international interest and was investigated for years by UFO researchers. Some bold and controversial theorists have proposed that the Grinning Man, Indrid Cold, and even the Mothman, another terrifying figure reported in the same region and time period, might all be different forms of the same shape-shifting, extraterrestrial species. According to this theory, these beings don't just observe us from afar, they can disguise themselves as humans, even posing as government agents to hide the truth about UFOs. Beyond merely watching, they insert themselves into our lives, subtly manipulating our thoughts and leaving behind disturbing, unforgettable encounters. Of course, all of this remains balanced on a thin line between legend, personal testimony, and pure imagination. But whether you see these stories as literal truth, misunderstood experiences, or cultural myths, one thing is undeniable: across decades and continents, people keep describing the same thing. The tall figure. The shining, metallic suit. The wide, haunting grin that never reaches the eyes. And again, the same chilling name, Indrid Cold. These similarities, in appearance, in behavior, in the terror they inspire, have forced people to ask questions most would rather leave unanswered. What, or who, is the Grinning Man? And why does he keep coming back? What makes this phenomenon even harder to dismiss is the surprising consistency in the details, the appearance, the actions, and the circumstances in which the Grinning Man appears all match across witnesses from different places, backgrounds, and generations. Yet they all describe, essentially, the same being. That kind of repetition forces us to ask a serious question: are people all imagining the same thing, or is there truly some unexplained phenomenon behind it? Perhaps the ultimate answer to the Grinning Man will always remain the subject of debate. But from any angle, these stories, of a figure with an unnatural, chilling smile, will continue to challenge human imagination and courage for generations to come. Who are the shadow people? Throughout human history, there is one strange and universal experience almost everyone has felt, if only once in their lives: the unsettling feeling of being watched, even when you're completely alone. You might be reading a book, tidying up the house, or simply relaxing in front of the television. Then, suddenly, a chill creeps up your spine, and you find yourself unable to focus on anything else. Many people have described how, in that moment, they catch a glimpse of something at the edge of their vision, a fleeting, dark shape that vanishes the instant they turn their head. It's nothing more than a brief flicker, yet it sends the heart racing. What makes this phenomenon so striking is that it seems to know no boundaries. It doesn't matter who you are, where you live, or what you believe. People across the world, in crowded cities and remote villages alike, have reported seeing them. These mysterious figures are called shadow people. They appear and disappear as if they were never really there, leaving behind nothing but questions that refuse to be answered. Shadow people are often divided into two groups. The first are the elusive shapes seen only at the edges of vision, sometimes called peepers. These figures act like voyeurs, always lurking behind doorways, peering from behind curtains, or standing in corners. They appear just long enough for you to sense them, but never long enough to see them clearly. Their presence leaves people restless, anxious, and unsure why they feel so afraid. The second group is far more terrifying: full-bodied apparitions that appear directly in front of you. They often show themselves during sleep or in moments of deep fatigue, sometimes standing silently at the foot of the bed. Witnesses often report being frozen in place, unable to move or speak, gripped by a paralyzing dread. Even today, stories of shadow people continue to circulate, whispered in hushed tones. Some stories stand out for their eerie details, and the lasting mark they leave on those who witness them. The story of Michael Collis. In December 2002, 8-year-old Michael Collis lay awake in his bed, too excited to sleep. Christmas was only days away, and he couldn't stop thinking about the Nintendo GameCube he had wished for all year. The house was silent, so quiet he could hear his parents snoring in the next room. Restless, Michael turned over again and again, hoping to find a cooler spot on the sheets. At some point, he reached for his glass of water, took a sip, and lay on his back, staring at the ceiling. He tried to calm himself by daydreaming about Christmas morning. That's when he noticed it, a small movement by the window to his left. The curtain was slightly open, and outside was the porch roof, a place Michael sometimes played during the day. At first, he saw nothing definite, only the sense that something had just passed by. He turned his head to check, but the porch was empty. Michael tried to dismiss it as nothing more than the play of streetlights on the tin roof. Yet the uneasy feeling stayed with him. Minutes later, the movement returned, again in the corner of his eye, and again vanished when he looked straight at it. This happened several times, each time leaving him more unsettled. Finally, Michael decided not to turn his head at all. Instead, he kept staring ahead, hoping to catch whatever it was in his peripheral vision. Then, he saw it clearly, a tall, thin figure, draped in a long cloak, with a wide-brimmed hat that cast its face into darkness. The figure was made entirely of shadow, with no features at all, yet outlined starkly against the faint glow of the night sky. Strangely, Michael didn't feel fear at first, only annoyance, as if someone was deliberately disturbing his sleep. The figure began to pace slowly back and forth across the porch, sometimes moving at an oddly slow, deliberate speed, then suddenly quickening its steps. At last, Michael had enough. He got up, walked to the window, and pulled the curtain shut. In that moment, he heard hurried footsteps run across the porch roof, and then silence. Peeking through a crack, he saw that the porch was empty. By morning, Michael had forgotten the entire incident, as if it had never happened. It wasn't until years later, as a college student, that the memory returned. A friend lent him a book on strange phenomena, and when Michael read the chapter describing the Hatman, a figure wearing a cloak and wide-brimmed hat, he felt a sudden, bone-deep chill. The memory of that December night came flooding back, as vivid as if it had happened yesterday. That Christmas, Michael went home and told his mother what he remembered. Before he could ask if anything strange had happened in the family that year, his mother quietly said, "I wonder if he came for Emily." Emily was Michael's childhood friend next door, who had died suddenly in her sleep on December 23rd, just 2 days after the night Michael saw the Hatman. Michael realized he had completely forgotten her death, as if it had been buried deep in his mind. Why had he forgotten something so painful? Was it simply grief his young mind couldn't face, or was there something stranger, something about the Hatman's appearance that Christmas night that had forced the memory away? Those questions remain unanswered, but for Michael, the memory of that night in Brennale remains an indelible scar on his soul. The story of the Putney family. Sometimes, these dark figures intrude not just on children's dreams, but in the lives of the elderly as well. Sarah Whitaker never imagined that a story her grandmother told her would stay with her forever, a story set in the quiet home of her grandparents, Albert and Susan Putney, in the small town of Cranbrook, Kent. In their later years, the Putneys chose to sleep in separate rooms. It helped them rest better, especially since Albert suffered from sleep apnea, which made him snore loudly and toss in his sleep. Susan was used to the quiet of her own small room, occasionally stepping out in the night to use the bathroom. One night in 2013, Susan awoke in the darkness, the ticking of the clock the only sound. On her way back to bed, she paused by Albert's door, as she always did, listening for the comforting rhythm of his snores. But instead of steady breathing, she heard only shallow, ragged gasps, almost as if he were choking. Worried, Susan opened the door to check on him. What she saw made her blood run cold. In the faint moonlight spilling through the window, Susan saw a dense, black shadow, a faceless silhouette, no more than a vague outline of head and shoulders, sitting on Albert's chest. It did not look human, nor like any ghost she could have imagined. Susan stood frozen, unable to move or call for help. Then, the shadow turned its head slowly, as if it sensed her watching. In that moment, the entire room seemed to grow colder and darker. The air itself felt heavy, suffocating. Then, as suddenly as it had appeared, the figure dissolved into nothingness, leaving behind only the darkness of the empty room. Shadow people, a universal mystery. The entire episode lasted only a few seconds, but it left a scar on her memory for the rest of her life. After it was over, Susan quietly walked over to Albert and gently shook him awake to check on him. He was still breathing, though a bit exhausted and confused to be awakened in the middle of the night. She never told anyone, not even Albert, what she had witnessed, afraid people would dismiss it as imagination or delusion. It wasn't until years later, in a conversation with her granddaughter Sarah, that she finally shared everything. For Sarah, her grandmother's account was more than just a scary ghost story. It was living proof of mysteries that science still cannot explain. At first glance, stories about shadow people are easy to dismiss as products of imagination or restless dreams. But when you gather thousands of reports from all over the world, a strange pattern emerges. These experiences are eerily similar, no matter who describes them. Whether it's a boy in Australia or an elderly woman in England. The sensations they recount are the same, a lingering terror that's hard to shake, especially when those involved swear they were completely awake and lucid during the experience. Yet nearly all these accounts remain anecdotal. Physical evidence is almost non-existent. The rare photos or videos of shadow people are often dismissed as hoaxes or technical glitches. This only deepens the mystery, making the stories even more haunting and harder to verify. Theories, spirits, science, and beyond. In light of these strange events, many theories have been put forth to explain the true nature of shadow people. Some see them as spiritual beings, souls of the dead unable to move on, forever lingering in this world weighed down by sadness and resentment. Others believe they are negative entities, bringing bad luck or even danger to the living. But not everyone believes in ghosts or the supernatural. Modern scientists have tried to explain the shadow people phenomenon through biological and physical theories. Some research suggests that extremely low-frequency electromagnetic waves can directly affect the brain, particularly the regions that process emotions and visual perception. When people are exposed to these frequencies, they become more prone to fear, anxiety, or even to seeing phantom images at the edge of their vision. Additionally, the human brain is remarkably good at filling in missing information. Especially in darkness or when exhausted, so fleeting movements in the periphery can easily become the image of a shadowy figure. But science doesn't always have the answer. There are plenty of cases where not just one person but entire families, even pets, have seen these mysterious apparitions at the same time. Bolder theories have emerged too. Some paranormal researchers suggest that these shadows might be visitors from parallel dimensions, slipping into our world when the boundaries between realities thin. Others have connected the phenomenon to UFOs and aliens, especially since in many cases, witnesses say they saw shadow figures before or after experiencing other strange events, like alien abductions. Curiously, the image of the Hatman reminds many people of the mysterious men in black, enigmatic figures who often appear in UFO stories and unexplained mysteries. Whether they are ghosts, hallucinations, or travelers from another dimension, shadow people remain one of the greatest mysteries humanity has ever faced. No matter their origin, they continue to haunt and intrigue us, a constant reminder that our world still holds countless secrets beyond the reach of science and ordinary experience. The Yuba County Five, a cold case that still haunts. In early June of 1978, a shocking discovery in a California forest stunned everyone. A group of motorcyclists pulled over on a lonely mountain road. As the late afternoon sun cast a golden glow through the pine trees, they noticed a large trailer parked near an abandoned Forest Service camp. An overpowering stench filled the air. At first, they assumed it was an animal carcass. But as they removed their helmets, the smell grew sharper. Some wanted to leave, but curiosity won. One rider noticed the trailer door was unlocked and its window smashed. Inside, everything seemed untouched, dusty cabinets, scattered odds and ends. But in the back of the trailer, they froze in horror. On a small bed lay the body of a young man, dead for weeks. At the time, they didn't realize they had uncovered a crucial piece of a mystery that had gripped Northern California for months. The disappearance of 5 young men from Yuba City who had left home one night in February and never returned. A night out that became a nightmare. On the cold evening of February 24, 1978, Gary Dale Matias, 25, sat at dinner with his family, excited for the night ahead, a basketball game in Chico with his closest friends. Ted Weir, 32, the oldest, shared a smile with his grandmother before bounding downstairs. Ted had a gentle soul and childlike enthusiasm, especially for basketball games. Jack Madruga, 29, a former serviceman, owned the bronze Mercury Montego and always drove the group. In the back seat was Jackie Hewitt, 24, shy and quiet, who felt safest around Ted, the last member was William Sterling, 27, deeply religious and often anxious in the outside world, but happy among friends. Together, they formed the Gateway Gators, a basketball team at the Yuba City Gateway Rehabilitation Center. They weren't just teammates. They were best friends, united by intellectual disabilities and mental health struggles, and by the shared joy of playing basketball. That night, they left for Chico, full of laughter, snacks, and talk of their own game. The next day, they watched the game at California State University, Chico. Later, a clerk remembered seeing them at a convenience store, calmly buying candy bars, but from that moment, they vanished. The search and the discovery. The next morning, panic spread through their families when the boys didn't come home. Local police quickly understood the seriousness. These young men weren't known to run off. Days of searches followed. On February 28, their car was found in the Plumas National Forest, over 70 miles from Chico. It was in good condition, not stuck, and nearly full of gas. The keys were missing, but otherwise, there were no signs of struggle, violence, or panic. Then, months later, came the heartbreaking discovery in the trailer. Inside, Ted Weir's body lay under 8 blankets, curled as if desperately trying to stay warm. He'd lost nearly half his body weight. Strangely, around him were untouched food supplies, matches, newspapers, and a working propane tank that could have provided heat. None of it had been used. Soon after, the bodies of Jack Madruga and Bill Sterling were found along a road back toward the car, their remains scattered by animals. Jackie Hewitt's father discovered his son's remains himself, a spine, jeans, and familiar shoes. His skull was later found nearby. Gary Matias was never found. Only his shoes were discovered in the trailer, leading some to think he swapped shoes with Ted when his feet swelled from the cold. But his fate remains unknown. Unanswered questions and theories. Why did they abandon their car, their only safe way home, to trek over 20 miles into freezing wilderness? Why, when they reached the trailer, didn't they use the food and heat right around them? Some suggest they were chased by someone or something. Others believe their mental health challenges left them unable to react properly under extreme stress. Witnesses reported strange sights that night, people, lights, and sounds in the forest, but nothing conclusive. Theories range from foul play and mistaken directions to UFOs, parallel dimensions, and bizarre cosmic coincidences, but none have ever been proven. Like the Dyatlov Pass incident in Russia, the Yuba County 5 remains a chilling reminder of how, in moments of fear and confusion, even the simplest choices can become tragically impossible. A mystery that endures. Decades later, the case continues to haunt investigators, families, and anyone who hears the story. It stands as an unsolved mystery, a tragedy compounded by silence, confusion, and endless speculation. For the families, hope for answers remains, though the years make them harder to find. Perhaps, if nothing else, the memory of the 5 young men endures as a reminder of friendship, vulnerability, and the fragile line between ordinary life and the unknown. If you found these mysteries fascinating, let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you won't miss future stories.